What's up, everybody? Boy Big Brando, and today is another episode of BSing with Brando. So this one right here is going to be me basically talking about some of the ups and downs of my custom t-shirt business when I first got started, all the way up till now. So a lot of times people hit me up and when they're just getting into making t-shirts or starting a business because they got the heat press and a vinyl cutter, first thing they want to do is make some custom shirts, and that's an easy way to make money when you have the equipment to do it from home. A lot of times people hit me up and they'll say, hey, I have the equipment. How do I get customers? What's the next step now that I bought my equipment? That's something that a lot of people should already be thinking about beforehand, before they even get into the game. But a lot of times people jump the gun and just say, all right, I'm gonna buy the equipment and just say, boom, let's get into it. There's nothing wrong with that. That's something that I did early on. So when I was making t-shirts, I didn't understand the custom t-shirt business, early 2000s when I got into vinyl and heat pressing and stuff like that, because I came from the traditional screen printing space. So it was, buying in bulk, ordering in bulk printing. Nothing was one off at the time. So for me, understanding who I was going to sell to and who had a want and a need for custom shirts, and then also who would be a good customer and a return customer for myself. That's something that you guys should think about also. But for me, when I first got into the game, vinyl, for one, was really thick and it was not what the quality is now, right? You have Thermoflex, Caesar, B-Flex. You have all these different heat transfer vinyl companies that make really, really great soft hand feel heat transfer vinyl. Back then, not the case. Back then, it was a really thick feeling vinyl. It was not what it is today. Just imagine a really thick, heavy sticker on a t-shirt. That's what it was. So making custom shirts back then was either you're going to Michael's or Joann's and buying some of that iron-on stuff like felt letters and stuff, or you had a vinyl cutter and you're going at it that route. They had the inkjet printer transfers and stuff, but still back then the quality was way worse than it is now. Obviously technology advanced and there are some better transfers out there, but for me, quality just isn't what I want to offer my customers. That's why I don't use inkjet transfers and stuff like that. So has nothing to do with the video, but going back to when I got my heat press and got a vinyl cutter and I was getting into the game, I was not lost because I knew how to maneuver around the t-shirt space and who wanted what, but I didn't know who I could contact about a one-off t-shirt, right? Because you're only making one, you're selling it, and you're only going to make, $15 to $25 off of this one shirt. So you have to find the perfect customer. And for me back then, it was going to a lot of the local rappers and a lot of the guys like that were coming up. Maybe they're a producer, maybe they're a rapper, maybe they had a show or a music video coming up. YouTube wasn't around back then, so there wasn't that much access to video content. So a lot of guys that were filming music videos were doing it and passing them out on DVDs with their CD or mixtape or whatever it was. So if they were shooting their, let's say, mixtape cover, I would approach them and say, hey, I can make you a t-shirt that said your name and or maybe what the mixtape's called or what the album's called, or say they had a show coming up and they wanted to have shirts for on stage. I would pitch them on that kind of stuff. Now, the easy part of that is it's just all text, right? It's just different fonts and you put it on a t-shirt, you give it to them and they're like, oh, blown away because they have a custom shirt for themselves. Because back then it wasn't as accessible as it is now. Back then you only had a certain amount of places that you could go to for a custom shirt. And for us over here in Los Angeles, it was the swap meet. Indoor swap meets had the little Asian lady in there making custom shirts. She made decals. She made a bunch of stuff. But how was I going to take the business away from her? My strategy was to undercut her, right? So if she's selling a custom t-shirt for $25, I would sell that same t-shirt for $22. You know what I mean? Undercut them and just say, hey, you could go to the swap meet and get it for $25, but I could do it for you right here for $22. We have the same equipment. We have the same vinyl. We have everything the same. I could knock it out for you right now. That right there was a big selling point for myself. So going to your competitor and finding out what they're pricing and undercutting them. And I'm not saying she's selling it for 25. You say you're going to sell it for 10 because you're cheating yourself and you're kind of messing up the market at that point. But in order to get the business, I had to do something like that. So what I would do is go to different rappers, and by word of mouth, people would be like, oh man, he does t-shirts. This is where I got my shirts done from. And boom, business started rolling. And it's cool. You know what I mean? You're doing all these t-shirts, one-off shirts every weekend. Maybe some guy got some new Jordans and you pitch them on, hey, I can make you a shirt with your name on it to match those new Jordans. That would be an easy play. That's something I played on early on when I was doing t-shirts, was matching a lot of stuff with sneakers, because back then you matched. Nowadays kids don't match, or I don't want to say kids and sound like an old man, but nowadays matching isn't what it is or what it was back then. Back then everything was coordinated. If your shoes were black and red, you had a shirt that was black and red that matched, a hat that was black and red. That was how it worked out. Nowadays, it doesn't work out that much. And whatever, if the trend isn't that, you could still find a way to make shirts for certain people. You know what I mean? Whether it's not, making a match, but it could be something else. And for me, that was just an easy way to get the sale going. Because for any business that I do, making the sale easier on myself is one of the biggest goals within my business. Because I want to make sure that I'm not doing over amount of work, or I should say I don't want to do more than I have to just to get the sale, if that makes any sense. Because if I can make something that is right out of the box appealing to the customer, then that's what I want to do. So for myself, that's what I was doing, was I was telling them, hey, all right, these new shoes came out, I'm gonna make a shirt that matches that. Green Bean 5s came out, so I'm gonna make a gray and neon green shirt for you, or whatever it was. You know what I mean? So for me, that was how I was going to get the sale weekly. Like Jordans were coming out all the time. Shoes were coming out all the time. Air Force Ones were big early 2000s. So I'm matching, West Indies or whatever crazy colorway Air Force One was coming out. I was going to make a shirt that matched it, and I knew who to pitch it to. This is before social media. This is before a lot of that stuff. So a lot of it had to do with me going out and actually reaching these people. So from there, the t-shirt thing was cool. But then I was like, man, there's so many more people that could use custom t-shirts. So what I started looking into was who was actually wearing shirts, who could benefit from me, and who could I pitch off of this idea, right? Because I had the vinyl cutter, I had the heat press, I also had the screen print stuff at this time. So it was like, who can I make a custom shirt for, or a sample of one, and then pitch them on bulk ordering with me, right? So I would go to local mechanic shops, plumbers, anybody that could use a service shirt, like construction worker, whatever it was, and say, hey, who makes your shirts? Or do you have anybody making your shirts? Can I be that person? And then I'd come with one that I made on a vinyl cutter and show them like, hey, check it out. I can make you a shirt just like this. It'll cost you X amount of dollars for, let's say, 2 dozen of them. Now, getting that business takes you going out and actually talking to the people, right? Social media now makes it a lot easier for people to just DM or email or comment on somebody's stuff and say, hey man, I can make you some shirts. But showing the physical t-shirt sample to somebody, it has a really big impact on whoever. That's why people like seeing mock-up. You know what I mean? You're taking a mannequin that's wearing a shirt and you put your design on there, and then they see it and they're like, oh yeah, that looks cool. Or if you're designing for somebody, you send them the mock-up and they're like, oh yeah, that looks cool. I could fuck with that. Imagine that just in person, right? So I make that one t-shirt, I bring it to the mechanic shop and say, hey, check it out. I could do this. I could put your number and your address on the back, and just order 24 or more, and this is what the price is going to be. This is how I was getting the work, but I was using my vinyl cutter for that purpose. So once I started locking in that kind of business, that stuff started to really do good for myself. I mean, you could go to barbershops, you could go to almost any service available and pitch them on t-shirts for their employees, for themselves, to give to customers, all that kind of stuff. You could go to a barbershop and say, if whoever owns the barbershop, say, hey, I can make you some shirts that say, something about being loyal to your barber, or I got faded up by so-and-so, or whatever it is, some kind of catchy slogan with the barbershop's name on it, and then give it to them. So that right there is an easy way to get into that space using your vinyl cutter and providing, multiple prints. Another way that I was doing it was doing onesies. Now is a really crazy time, because if you notice, any mom that has a brand new baby that's like 1 month to 12 months, they're posting on social media monthly. Here's my kid, when he was first born. Then they put him in a onesie that says 1 month old, 2 month. So that right there is 12 months of onesies that you could be making for one kid. So think about it like that. How do you find these people? Obviously, people that are doing gender reveals on Instagram or Facebook, you find them on there. Obviously, there's a baby coming, so you start pitching them on what you could offer them, or just start social media marketing with them, engaging with them, and just staying up to date with them. So that way, when it is time, you could say, hey, by the way, check it out. You could do this. I could create this for you. This is what some of my other customers did. Maybe this will be a good thing for you. So now you could start getting into that space, because when you sell baby clothes, you're not selling to the baby, you're selling to the parents. You know what I mean? The parent or the aunt or whoever it is, the grandma, they're the ones buying the stuff. So if you're making a shirt or a onesie that says world's best grandma, obviously you're selling that to the grandma for the kid. So in doing that, all you have to do is look at Facebook groups, first time moms or moms to be, whatever it is. There's a ton of Facebook groups out there like that. Or you could look up, popular hashtags, gender reveals, and all that stuff. Now that's popular. You see the people with the smoke or popping balloons or, doing all kind of crazy stuff. I seen one where somebody pitched them like a little egg that was filled with dust and the guy hit it with a bat. All of that stuff is cool, right? But that is ammo for you. So you could go on there and be like, oh, look, these people are about to have a baby. Let me get into their faces and let them know what I could offer them. Or just start following them with your business page, so you are involved with the updates, and you could constantly say, all right, they're this close to having the baby. Let me pitch them on this, or let me start posting a lot of this so they could see it. Shit like that. So when you have your vinyl cutter, if you're getting it just to make t-shirts, don't feel like t-shirts is it once you have your vinyl cutter and your heat press. That's not it. You have a lot of different options on what you could create with that. I know we buy the equipment to make t-shirts, but if you open up your brain to different ideas on how you can make money off of stuff, it's easy to find who or where the void is and how you're going to fill that void, right? So for example, you have your vinyl cutter, you can make stickers and decals. A good way to market decals is basically, instead of just saying, hey, I make decals, you could say, I make car decals, or I make decals for hydro flasks, or I make decals for bicycles, or whatever it is. Once you make something specific for it, because you got to think that's what people are searching for, right? So somebody's going to Google cool decals for my hydro flask. That's where that kind of shit pops up. Say you have an Etsy shop. People aren't searching just for decals. I mean, they do, but when they're searching for something specific, that decal could work on anything. But by just by you saying decal for hydro flask, that right there is going to open up a ton of stuff for people to be like, oh man, I could put this on my Yeti or my hydro flask or whatever type of drinkware that you use. Now you can make custom stickers for that kind of stuff. Or you can make custom stickers for car windows. You see it all the time. People are doing, different types of stickers, or you see people decorating mugs and cups and whatever it is that you're into. But there's an easy way to make money off of decal vinyl, because you could get decal vinyl for like a 15-inch roll. 1 yard will be like $2. That's not buying it through Hobby Lobby, Michael's, Joann's. This is going through places like McLogan or Printer Supply Warehouse. That's the going rate is like $2 for a yard of vinyl. You know how many stickers or decals you can make with 1 yard of vinyl? It's crazy. So if you think like, oh man, there's no money in decals. There's a ton of money in decals, especially if you're customizing them, right? Like you're doing certain people's names, you're doing, sports team numbers or whatever it is. Maybe some parents, their kid plays soccer and you want to make some cool mugs or koozies for them while they're watching the game. Boom. You could also sell them on t-shirts. You could also sell them on a bunch of different stuff. So this is a way to think outside of the box, outside of just doing t-shirts. This is something that came to me early on. Was I have the equipment to make shirts, and obviously that's what I got into it for. But once I started thinking about who could benefit from what this cutter could do, it was almost endless on what I was thinking and who I wanted to sell to, right? Same goes for like bridal showers, bridal parties, bachelorette parties, bachelor parties. 40th birthdays, 50th birthdays, all of these things can be celebrated with t-shirts. It could be celebrated with, wine tumblers. It could be celebrated with, beer mugs or whatever it is. There's a lot of things that you could attach to it to sell for yourself that could all be done from the vinyl cutter. You know what I mean? And if you have one of these inexpensive ones, like I got the Cameo right here, if you have a Cameo or a Cricut, whatever it is, you could be making money off of just these small, simple things from home. And for me, that's the big seller, right? That's something that I've always wanted to do, was be able to create from home and make some money off of it. It's just finding the audience and finding who you want to sell to. Something that I would say a failure of mine when it came to that was thinking that my heat press and vinyl cutter was only for shirts. I didn't cut decal vinyl, and I only focused on t-shirts. And when I did that, I put my own self in a box. So if you're in this space right now, do not feel like you have to only create t-shirts. That's not what this equipment can do. You can do so much more outside of that. Now decal vinyl, heat transfer vinyl, there's so many different types. I was at Printer Supply Warehouse the other day, and they had so many specialty types of vinyl that would be crazy on t-shirts. You know what I mean? And just with that alone, offering that to your customers and having access to that kind of stuff from stores like that is easy call. Because back when I first started, there wasn't places like that. It was either ordering it online or going to McLogan. Heat Press Nation was around. I believe their shop was in Brea. Now they're in Fullerton, something like that. But their shop before that really wasn't a showroom like it is today, where you could just walk in. I think you could do will call pickup back then, but now they have a full showroom where you could walk in, see all the heat presses, see all the shit that they have to offer, which is really, really dope. So if you're in the Southern California area, it's worth going over there and checking out. You know what I mean? Because now they have a storefront where you could go inside and actually touch the presses and see what they could do. And the staff is there to help you out, make the decision for you, where you're just not online looking at YouTube videos like myself, or just looking at the pictures and trying to read reviews. You could actually go to the place, touch every single heat press, figure out what they all do and what you would need. Now, like I said, back then it wasn't like that. So McLogan was one of the places that I could go to buy vinyl, but finding McLogan was the hardest part, because everybody else that I knew that made t-shirts with vinyl was the ladies at the swap meet, and they weren't helping nobody for shit. They weren't giving up their source for vinyl. They weren't giving up their cutter name. They were even putting a little decal sticker over the Graphtec or Roland brand on the cutter, so you couldn't see what kind of cutter it was, because they didn't want other people taking their business. They understood what was going on, and they knew that they had a good market locked down, so they didn't want some young punk kid coming in, finding out what they're doing, and then cutting them out the business like I did. And for me, I live in Gardena. The Del Amo Indoor Swap Meet is maybe 10-15 minutes away off the freeway. But people in Gardena, I could just tell them straight up, like, hey, I can make your shirts for you. You don't got to go to Del Amo Swap Meet. I'll do it for you. And I'll charge you less than what they're charging. Easy call. I would go get the t-shirts for them. I made it so simple for them, where all they had to do was tell me what they wanted, come and pick the shirt up, or I could drop it off, and it was a done deal, right? So I could take on 5 customers, $20 a shirt. That's a quick $100 that I just made by cutting out some vinyl that I spent maybe $35 to $40 on a roll for. And I still have a shitload more HTV to use on other t-shirts off of that $100 that I already just made for, let's say, a Friday or something. And now you could do it for way more people, because there's a lot of people that need custom t-shirts, and you just don't know they need it. You just have to think about it. Like I said, if you hit up, maybe your homie has a window business or car detail business, you could pitch them on, hey, I could make aprons for you, I could make t-shirts for you, I could make all this stuff for you, I could do decals for you. Pitch them on the idea, because they don't necessarily know they need it. They know it might help the brand, but you selling it to them would be a lot more beneficial for your business and their business, right? So you have the guy, your homie, that does a car detail business. You could do, you can make aprons for them. I know they make microfiber aprons. I don't know if you could press on those, but maybe you could. But you could pitch them on that. T-shirts for him and his workers. And pitch them on more than just one, right? Because they're working throughout the week. They're not going to wear the same exact shirt every single week. So you could just say, hey man, I'll sell you, 3 or 4 of these with your business name and all that stuff. And I'll make you some decals that, customers could put on their windows or their cars, or just put on the business windows, whatever it is. But making little takeaways for their business and use them as business cards is an easy call, because all you have to do is just weed the shit out, cut it up, send it out to them, man. So think outside the box, outside of just doing custom t-shirts, but figure out who else could benefit off of your custom t-shirts. You know what I mean? In this video, I probably explained a bunch of different ways that you could do it, but I'm pretty sure you guys could think of way more businesses that could use your business. So hopefully you guys take this advice and understand that when you have the equipment to do stuff from home, you could create from home, and it's really cool to do so. But don't put yourself in a box, because that's what I did early on, and I left a lot of money on the table. And I know I could have made way more money if I would have thought more about who could use custom t-shirts, not necessarily like a brand, but just using custom shirts for day-to-day stuff. Different businesses could use your stuff, birthday parties, all that stuff, man. Think about it, figure out how you could get that business, and then go after that business. All right, hopefully this video helps somebody out. Be on the lookout for more videos like this. If you want to keep the conversation rolling, do it in the comments. I go back and forth with everybody. Or you can follow me on Instagram, Big Brando TV. All right, catch you on the next one, man. Peace.